Around a year ago, I created a mod which turns every Mario Kart Wii track into a mini version of Desert Bus. Desert Bus is a game where you just kind of drive around in a straight line for several hours, and it was remade in Mario Kart Wii as a 6-hour-long custom track. I took all of the tracks in Mario Kart Wii and stretched them to be 10 times as long, and then I challenged myself to do 3 laps of every single track. Some tracks crashed, and some just weren't possible to complete, but a lot of tracks definitely and unfortunately were possible. In this video, I'm going to show you how long all of the tracks took me to complete. Will the total playtime for this mod exceed that of the Desert Bus track? How long will the longest track take to complete? And what will the longest track be? Make sure to watch the whole video to find out. Let's get started. The shortest track by a mile was SNES Mario Circuit 3. As well as stretching the tracks to be 10 times as wide, I thought it would be funny to also squish them by half in the other direction. As a result, many of the twists and turns in the track became trivial, as I could just cut the corners to save minutes of playtime. You might notice that the pipes have also been stretched, but collision can vary from object to object. It often doesn't get modified like the track does, so pipes aren't really as threatening as they look. I should also mention that these tracks were being played on 200cc and with item rain enabled, meaning I had the chance to get bullets, stars, and megas in first place. If I played on regular 150cc, I don't know if I would have lasted. Breaking the 6-minute barrier, we have DS Yoshi Falls. This one was pretty basic, although the waterfall slowed me down a lot more than I expected. The way the ramp was stretched was also really weird, since it's at a diagonal angle. Shy Guy Beach looks just about as boring as usual since it's just flat. There's not really much to point out here other than the trees, umbrellas, and crabs looking especially stupid. Luigi Circuit was actually the first one we tried, and it set the tone for the nonsense we'd be dealing with. This was one of the ones where the computer players actually were kinda competent for some reason, and honestly, it was somewhat engaging with the constant changes in scenery and objects that keep me entertained. Plus, I was just high on energy because we just started. I don't have the energy for those. I think Daisy Circuit could have easily been pushed further down the rabbit hole if it wasn't for the staircase shortcut. The figure 8 section was in the squish direction, which means I was able to jump past the entire thing. I think if I actually tried to enter the figure 8, we'd be left with a much longer time. I low-key enjoyed Moo Moo Meadows because of the scenery. Having the X-axis squished made it possible to see the entire track all at the same time, which is kind of beautiful. I also enjoyed hanging out with the cows. They look very unique. We're breaking the 8-minute barrier now. Remember, in CGGP, you get booted out of an online race after just 5 minutes and 40 seconds. In Mario Kart 8, you get booted out of single-player races after just 10 minutes. Now, Mario Circuit is interesting because it demonstrates that the chain chomp doesn't scale with Weem's SNES tools. That's about it for the entertainment, though. Gotta look for the little things in life. Mario Raceway is full of boring straightaways as well, just like every other track in this mod. Nothing interesting to bring up here other than maybe the squished pipe. Squished pipe was very funny. By the way, in case you don't believe that I actually did 3 laps of these, I actually live streamed the entire thing, and I have the link to the archive in the description. It's actually really interesting that the short tracks can still be abnormally long with this mod. It all kind of depends on how much time you normally spend on the Z-axis and the X-axis. For Peach Beach, for example, you're almost never on the X-axis, so the fact that I scale it down doesn't really have any meaningful impact. The Caliquacks, though, they're very special. They are very meaningful. The hedge maze actually resembles a maze a bit more now, as you have to put in much more effort into weaving between the bushes rather than slightly altering a wheelie. The moles don't really resemble anything though, and nor does the minimap. Suck to suck, I guess. Even though it was a long one, I quite enjoyed exploring Coconut Mall due to the multitude of different routes to experience. The shortcut feels like a maze, the ramps at the end look especially stupid, and some of the indoor sections are really funny when squished. I like this one for some reason. GCN Mario Circuit breaks the 9-minute barrier, almost at double digits, and we have a fair few tracks to go. How many exactly? Not gonna tell you. I want to keep the suspense, you know? Trek sucked, but I enjoyed doing jump tricks off the bridge at the end. It was moderately satisfying. And we're over 10 minutes. Shoutouts to DS Delfino Square. The dock shortcut is slightly completely and utterly out of action, but at least the bridge is there, technically. I enjoyed hanging out with the overly large piantas in this track. They looked very special and unique. Nobody else quite like these lads. And now, we break the 11-minute barrier. How much longer are we gonna go on before the tracks get too long and crash the game? Well, let's find out. Due to the track being squished, it was much easier to do the turn skip shortcut than it is in the regular game. And let's be real, doing this turn skip shortcut probably saved at least a minute per lap. The cannon was a bit weird, maybe a bit more than a bit, but the respawn was alright, so I don't really care at this point. Snowboard Cross also had a long cannon, but it wasn't anywhere near as annoying as the Parkway one. The track's just long. The half pipes help keep it entertaining, and the double shortcut has a general respawn, but it's just an 11-minute slog. It was amusing to see the stretched cars in Moonview Highway. Again, it's just the little things. Not a huge amount to say here, just another 11-minute slog. This one might actually be quite surprising, since Sherbet Land is usually a much shorter track. I think it might be down to the slippery road counting as partial off-road, along with having to shift around the pillars and the cracks in the ice. Very close to creeping into the 12-minute mark. Like, I'm pretty sure this track is normally one of the longest in the game, but it ended up being just 1 minute slower than Sherbet Land. It's insane how whack these track edits can get. Thankfully, the ramps take place in the squished section, which also means you can do the rail cut without actually touching the rail. We're in the top 3 now, and third place goes to Wario's Gold Mine. The problem with this track is it actually required a lot more player input than just patience. You need to launch yourself across to the background rail. I ended up switching to a lightweight character to get more height, but I'm not sure if it really did anything to help or not. Every time you miss a jump, it takes around 15 seconds to drive back and try again. It wasn't a very fun time, and I don't recommend it to anybody. This track ended up breaking the 14-minute barrier, and almost made it to 15. That's pretty impressive, but it's pathetic compared to what we have coming up. Koopa Cape broke the 16-minute mark and almost creeped its way to the 17. While it didn't require a lot of skill compared to Gold Mine, it's still an absolute nightmare to navigate. The waterfall leading to the water section is stretched at a diagonal angle, which can sometimes lead the player to hitting a fall boundary. Since you're not supposed to be able to fall off in this area, the respawn sets you several minutes backward into the track. The pipe section is also very difficult to navigate, but overall it's just the length of the track that brought it to second place. But what about first place? Which non-crashing track that was possible to complete 3 laps of was the longest of them all? GBA Bowser Castle 3 took me almost 3.5 hours to complete. This track might seem harmless at first, but it's the section with the yellow jump pads that caused all of the time loss. Whenever I was met with impossible jumps in other tracks, I'd try to get a bullet build to see if the path would get it across the gap. Usually, the answer was no. However, in this track, the answer was yes. Now, getting a bullet in last isn't too much of a challenge, but it's only enough distance across one of the 5 jumps. If you consider the entire 3-lap run, this means you'll need at least 14 more bullet bills without getting one from an item set. In other words, you need to wait for a bullet bill to drop from item rain onto the squished, narrow pathway. Most of the computer players get stuck at the first ramp, and since the bullet bill always tries to bring them forward a few positions from where they initially are, sometimes they'll cross multiple gaps and just ram straight into you, knocking you into the lava. When you fall off, you respawn or jump back from where you just fell off, and sometimes it can take like 20 or 30 minutes for a bullet bill to actually fall. This happened to me several times, by the way. My first lap of this track clocked in at 50 minutes. My second lap was over 70. So why did I keep going? Well, I just want this video to be a good one. What other Mario Kart YouTuber is going to sit through 8 entire hours of Desert Bussified tracks? The Desert Bus custom track is 6 hours long. There are a total of 21 possible tracks, and when combined with testing the other 11 tracks, this brings my total to well over 8 hours. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that for me. If this video does especially well, I'll flip the axis and do it again. We'll switch the long parts of the track and extend the short parts. It'll be thrill of the century. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you around.